What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Daily Refinement. My name is Chris. Thank you so much for joining me. This is a new series where we interview veteran resellers and go over, tips and tricks that they can share with us and go over things that have worked for them. I have only been reselling a few years full time. I've been selling stuff my whole life, but now I'm really into it. So I'm very interested in interviewing people who've been doing this for a living for longer than I have. I'm sort of a veteran and noob experience, except for I have a history of selling stuff. But Chris, thank you for joining me. Why don't you tell us where you live, what you sell, and tell us a little bit about you.
Hey, Chris, first off, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And for those that don't know at home, I've known Chris for a few years, and it's really good, Chris, to see you continuing to be successful, helping people out, and all that kind of stuff. So I really appreciate you having me on the show for sure. And I've been in this business for a long time, and we'll get to that in just a second. And I can say I'm always learning something from you. So if an old dog can learn new tricks like myself, man, I really appreciate that. So if you're not definitely following Chris, if you're not subscribed to this guy, definitely do that. So about me, I'm Chris the Thrift Shop Hustler. I have a YouTube channel first. I've been reselling on eBay for over 23 years. I've been in this business since the very beginning, and I'm currently the eBay hub manager for the American Cancer Society. I help run their business, their eBay business, and that's basically like a little small sliver of what I've been doing over the last 20 years.
That's fantastic. I've only had the opportunity to talk to one other person that has a little bit of commercial experience working for an organization. That's also a great cause. So I'll definitely link any link to your organization and also your channel below. But let's get straight into it. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and if you have some thoughts for me, that would be great. But let's start with the people who are scared to start, or people who don't have a structure built yet. Let's talk about this fear of starting.
Right. So I think that's probably one of the major hurdles for a lot of people is just to get started in any kind of business, whether it be eBay, YouTube, anything. And I would just say to try at first to learn as much as possible. I'm all for jumping in and getting your feet wet, and that's definitely something that everyone should do, but learning some of the processes that go into what you want to do first, instead of just jumping in and completely having a mess and then being discouraged, not to want to continue of whatever your goal is. So I think learning about what you're gonna do first by watching YouTube videos, going to conferences, having mentorship programs, talking to other people really will help you get your feet wet a little bit before you start to dive in. But, for me, I'm all about diving in, but at least having a little bit of knowledge base of what you're planning to do before you go and do it.
That is smart. Yeah, your knowledge base is going to grow as you go. So it's nice that reselling is one of those few occupations where it's not multi-level marketing. You can immediately earn money. You don't have to invest a lot of money. You can start around the house. And that's why this new series I'm doing is really important, guys, because it's just listing 4 days a week to get that habit going. Over time, the people who resell the most are the people who resell more and earn more money. It's just who has the most experience. It's just the hours that you put into it. So my next question is, let's say you happen upon a rare or unusual item. Most of reselling is deduction, because in the thrift store, I'd love to talk about, one, how many items are you really finding when you go into a store? And then two, if you find something rare and unusual, where do you start?
That's absolutely a really, really good question. It's funny because I actually had a situation like that about 2 years ago where I went into a thrift shop. They had some statues from a billionaire named Sam Zell. I don't know if anyone's heard of Sam Zell out there. I think he owns the Chicago Tribune, but every year he would make these little gifts for his New Year's presents for his New Year's party. They're little little kind of trinket music boxes that were custom made. I didn't know all this at the time, so I go into the thrift store. I find these. They were $25 a piece. They look cool. There was 2 of them, one from 1995 and I think another one from 1997. And not knowing anything about these, it was kind of a gut feeling to go and purchase these items. When I got home, of course, I went on Google. I couldn't really find much about any of these things. So Google really didn't help. So I think going out doing, I did reverse Google images and stuff like that to kind of kind of get to where I am. I knew the name. It said Sam Zell, so that was where I started, was basically a name. Also going on Google, and then I found out like there's museums in New York that actually collect these items. They're called automations or automations or something like that. And so I saw like, oh my goodness, like these things are actually very valuable. So I actually reached out to those museums and was like, I sent them photos and I'm like, well, what is this? What do I have? And they were saying, he's been doing this every year since 1995. I actually had the very first one that he did, and it tested and worked, and it came with the box. A lot of these things didn't come with the box. They were thrown away and everything. So reaching out to the museum, I found out they were actually worth a couple grand a piece. I ended up selling them for, put them on eBay. I listed very high, and that's one of the keys that I want to bring home for everyone, that if you don't know what something's value is, price it as high as you think possible, because you can always bring the price down. You can never bring the price up. If you sell like a Picasso for $100,000 that's worth $1,000,000, you'd never know. Price it at 2 million. You know what I'm saying? So I ended up selling those the pair to a collector in New York for $5 grand a piece. So I took $50 and turned it into $5 grand. But it did take a lot of research. Don't just be quick to put something on sale without doing the research first. And always price high. I call it the high-low theory. I have had the high-low theory forever. And basically it means price high, you can always bring the price down, and you'll get best offers and things like that. So that's pretty much how I go about researching things that are rare, that have no comps.
Those are great tips. So reverse Google image search will help you identify maybe if there's no markings on it. And then Google searches in general are great because some people are only searching eBay, and if it's rare and unusual, it might not pop up. You may pass on an item that has a great history, but you don't know. You can also use WorthPoint, has like a longer sales history if you guys want to sell antiques or such. For me, if it catches my eye and it has a high quality build, if something is heavier than it looks, if it looks like it's aged really well, you can with some practice you can tell the difference between reproductions and then actually old things, and usually it's the weight. Reproductions are made of cheaper materials, and they're often not dated, and they may even say made in China on the bottom. So definitely do your homework. But those rare items are part of this particular game. And it's important because you have your bread and butter, things you think will sell right away. Don't fill your entire house though with weird, unusual items unless you have the space. I worry about some people. Great. Okay, now Chris, this is the big one. My
Uh-oh.
channel is all about action. So I want to talk about what your day looks like. You have a family. You're also balancing sort of a corporate gig, and you're reselling. How do you fit it all in? What's your day look like?
It's chaos. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's super chaos. Yeah, I have a teenager that's graduating and going to high school next year, so that's pretty crazy. It's usually, here's the thing, like my wife is probably one of the most incredible people in the world. So I think having a great partner is key to a successful business, is someone that can actually, you can lean on to help. She does pretty much 99% of the kid stuff. So that frees me up to run my business, come to work from 9 to 5, do all my research, my YouTube channel and things like that. So it's chaotic. I've kind of learned to, over the years as getting older, to create a schedule. I think schedules are probably one of the most important things. Having getting some exercise, having a good diet, sleeping 8 hours a day is probably one of the best things I ever did for my life. And really scheduling those things, like I'm going to go to bed at this time, I'm going to wake up at this time, and really kind of nurturing yourself, because if you're not healthy, you're not going to be successful. And also, like my wife, she's incredible. And so I lean on her a lot for taking care of the kids and things like that. And then the work-life balance is pretty hard, trying to find time for the kids, and also scheduling time for your wife or your partner, date nights, kid date nights, and nurturing those relationships, because we tend in this business to go, 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 go. And a lot of the people in our lives are suffering from us being workaholics and things like that. So definitely, I would say getting a schedule is key. Eating healthy, getting rest, and spending and blocking out time for your family, because that's really important.
Do you have a scheduled date night or work times? How are you able to get in, like
It's
specifics?
Like, so basically, you have the 9 to 5s. You come home, there's dinner usually blocked out. Usually I want to check my emails like later at night when everyone's a bed, have a little bit of hour, maybe time with the kids at night, and just kind of structure it that way. And the thing is, for me, my time schedule is a little bit more fluid than most people's. And so it can be rigid sometimes, it can be fluid most times. So I'm always rolling with it. I don't have something that's very set as far as like the time with the family and the recreational things. But, sleeping, I want to be into bed like at 11 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. I need to have that 8 hours to function the next day. And, it's ever changing, my schedule. So I would say, like, get a schedule, but know that you're probably not going to be able to achieve that, and that's okay. But at least you're structuring yourself for success.
That's great. Yeah, time blocking is huge. If you need to give yourself some buffer time, which is something I'm just barely learning. So at least 15 minutes in between each thing, because it never works like you want it to work, especially if you are trying to create content, resell, family, date night. Also, I wanted to ask this question: does your wife also resell, and does she care about this business?
My wife does not resell. She's very supportive of what I do. And to be honest, I think like a lot of people aren't into reselling a lot of that. It's kind of still a niche kind of business. And she supports me, but she's not into this business at all. She I've kind of thought about bringing her on as an employee before, but the thing is, here's the thing: she does so much as it is on her own, raising the kids and doing all that kind of stuff. So, I'd kind of let her do her thing. She lets me do my thing, and then we all come together to collaborate to provide for our family. So it works out for me.
I think that's really important. And that's the power of this reseller community, because my fiance does not really care about reselling. She doesn't dislike reselling. It's just not her main topic that she wants to talk about after work. So I've learned to not talk about reselling after work. And I actually think that that's helped my reselling in the sense that, um, one, it forces me to be active in the community, meet people like Chris, and be able to discuss certain topics. And then two, I actually get a break from work. If I think a miserable situation might be two entrepreneurs living together, because they would both want to talk about their project when they get home, and the other one doesn't care about it's just there's so much going on in your own life, unloading your reselling onto your significant other. I've seen it really stress people out. So it's actually, I think, better that you guys are a little bit separate.
Absolutely. And also, you mentioned two entrepreneurs living together, like the competition thing, because I'm very competitive on certain things. And I would be like, well, my wife's made this much money this week reselling. I gotta beat her. You know what I mean? Like, and that kind
Mhm.
of stuff. So that's funny.
And if you are a husband and wife couple, they do usually do not quite twice as much work. And this is something I want to talk about, because a lot of husband and wife teams do tasks that would take one person doing it, and they end up taking longer, and two people do it because there's too much input, too many chefs in the kitchen. So even though you have two people, you're less productive than one person splitting up the tasks. So, and if you are driving around together, that's different than splitting up. So it's important to recognize that you should be earning more than twice as much if you're working together, because you're sacrificing the stability of one person having a real job. That's, for me, like, I have a huge health insurance savings because we can use her company, and also we can kind of mix tax write-offs, because for her, she can't write off driving to work, but I can say I'm sourcing. So there's different types of tax write-offs and benefits if you have different jobs. So it's important to recognize that, because there's a lot of husband and wife teams starting. And also, I do recognize that Chris and I have a massive advantage having a supportive significant other. When I see the emails coming in that you're doing the solo, or you a single parent, I empathize with you, because that's very different. And you have to be even more militant about your time, because you have so little of it if you have to do both. So I want to just shout out to people who are doing this alone. It's important, if you're doing it alone, to surround yourself with I would say, a few key rocks in your life. If you can't have a significant other with you, you need some kind of influence that's positive.
Absolutely. You're so right. And definitely shout out to the single parents out there. I don't know how you do it. And so much respect and much props to all you out there for sure. And keep hustling.
Keep hustling. And again, the consistency is more important than the volume. If you're just getting started, if you're a single parent, don't don't expect 30 listings a day when you don't have any time. Just expect one listing a day and build that habit until you have more time as you get more efficient. And that's, don't try to perfect it. It doesn't work that way. Even when you have as much time as myself, it never goes according to plan. There's so much time, and there's so much that it's unpredictable. But let's go now into some ideas that you have to help people in their reselling career.
So first, just also, when you're gonna start, basically you're gonna fail a lot. That's just inevitable. Even people that have been in this business for 20 plus years, like myself, we fail all the time. Don't be afraid of failure. Embrace failure. What things come out of failure is wisdom. You learned a lot more than you would if you're successful. If you're successful all the time, great, good for you. But when you start to fail, you start to learn the things that could help you become more successful through failure. So embrace failure. Definitely do all that. For new people that are selling on eBay, be very tuned into customer service. When I was younger, I took customer service for granted. I'd let email slide for a couple days. Be the best customer service rep for your own business. It's your business. It's your reputation on the line. So definitely take that very seriously. If someone has a problem, don't get mad because they want to return. That's part of the business. You need to learn. You need to remove yourself emotionally from returns. You need to understand that you're going to have customers that are going to be completely whacked out of their mind, but you need to stay centered. You need to stay centered with the goals with customer service, and definitely do that. So failure and customer service are major keys. Learning about the shipping programs, learn about all the different things. Start small. Don't start to go crazy all of a sudden. Learn incrementally throughout the months and weeks and things like that. Don't just go start crazy and listing like 1,000 things. Start slow. Build your reputation. Build your knowledge base, and eventually this is like a slow and steady wins the race, not a sprint to the finish line. This is literally a marathon we're doing here.
I agree. Put your marathon shoes on, guys. So this is a topic that I want to talk about when it comes to failures. Let's say you have purchased too much, okay, at one point in your reselling career. And let's say you have 100 bins of stuff that's not listed. Okay, because I've seen this. I've seen people's death houses, not just death piles, like their whole house, every single nook and cranny is filled. Okay, say you're in that situation. You have 100 piles of stuff. How would you approach that? You've purchased too much. Now what?
So I don't know if you've ever heard this term. It's called eating the elephant one bite at a time. And I think if you just start with one bin, instead of thinking like, oh my God, I got 100 bins, I'm totally lost, because that will actually give you paralysis when you think about it mentally, like, oh my God, there's 100 bins. But if you think about it as there's one bin, 20 items, today I'm going to get through that bin, tomorrow I'm going to get through the next bin, and know that you don't always have to sell whatever's in those 100 bins. You can redonate for a tax write-off. You can have a garage sale. You can go to the flea market. I think it costs like $20 or $30 to set up a table. And that's where I started when I was 8 years old, by the way. So I know all about that. There's OfferUp. You can do things Facebook Marketplace. There's a lot of solutions to a problem. Everyone wants to see the problem, 100 bins, but there's also 100 solutions also. But I definitely suggest starting with just one bin and eating the elephant at one bite at a time, and you'll get through it. You'll be amazed how much you'll be able to get through.
And the way that I would approach that is very similar, one bin at a time. So normally people who have 100 bins of unlisted stuff have a buying problem. So what I try to do is say, instead of cutting that off, because you probably will not stop buying. Okay, so my intention is, if you have 100 bins, let's say there's 20 items per bin, that's 2,000 items that are unlisted. That's a lot. But think about this. If you list 20 items and you can purchase less than 20 items on the same day, at least your pile is shrinking. And if you can get that habit, so you've got to do two things. You've got to be able to list more consistently, and you've got to purchase less. You got to purchase less than you list. That way the pile can slowly move the other direction. If you do that over time, and you start with listing, meaning I'm going to list this bin before I go sourcing. Sometimes instead of going sourcing, you'll list two bins because you're already in that momentum. And then you're going to think, wow, I didn't have to spend any money. and I have stuff going into my store. Once you get those to change, you'll start moving the opposite direction, because just like we were talking about incremental change, is how you build this. That's how you reverse your way out of a situation where you have too much stuff. And I love OfferUp. I just started doing it, and I have almost a daily sale. I actually didn't recognize that because I have all my stuff in a storage unit, I can just meet people there. That didn't occur to me until I saw somebody else doing it online. So now you have kind of a mobile office. And the nice thing about storage facilities is they're all heavily surveilled. There's a lot of surveillance there. So it's a good place to meet. Do you
That's
have
funny
any
that,
tips for meeting
yeah,
up?
I was gonna say that's funny that you mentioned that, because I've actually did offer up through my storage unit too. I think recently I sold a huge collection of Star Wars figures, and it was just too cumbersome to ship. So that's definitely a pro tip. You're already paying for your thing. Like you said, it's secure. There's usually a security guard there. There's usually an employee there. So it's not like you're out in the woods and possibly Jack the Ripper is going to come and find you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I highly suggest, if you're going to do Craigslist, OfferUp, any of that stuff, meet someone in a parking lot that's crowded. Go to a police station. That's one of the other things too.
Mm-hmm.
Go somewhere where you're seen, so you will not be taken advantage of. And I got to tell this one horror story real quick. And I hate to bring this up because this actually might save someone's life here. I heard a story of someone that was selling Funko Pops at, they did OfferUp. They sold Funko Pops, and they're easily collectibles. Some of them are worth thousands of dollars. Anyways, they were showing the photos of what they were selling. There was like a $20 figure, and in the background was $1,000 figures in the background in their house, right? So they were showing, they were showing this one photo, but in the background, people were seeing, oh my God, there's like $20,000 worth of figures in the back. Someone actually met up with the person at a supermarket or whatever, and then followed them home and then robbed them at gunpoint. So just make sure you're not being followed. You're not showing anywhere where you live. If you have valuable items, do not show it in the photos. Just show the photo of what you're selling by itself. Make sure you're not being trailed, and make sure that your personal information is so clear. Don't have anyone meet you at your home, especially if you have higher end items. So that is like my super pro tip, just to be careful out there.
So important. Definitely meet in a crowded area or a police station. Personal information, keep to a minimum. And then if you can, just in general, don't have anything in the background of your photos. I see that all the time. People put a very valuable item in the back to try to increase the relative value of their item. And that is, one, you can get an item not as described. People can complain that that didn't come with the item. Two, it's distracting. And it's also, you can get robbed. So that's happened where somebody had a cannabis plant in the background too, and then they were raided because somebody who didn't like them just reported them. So don't have that kind of video evidence of what you have. It's such a, reselling is a little bit of a private endeavor. It's something that you do quietly. It's, the secondhand market in general is very, very different than the firsthand retail experience. You go and buy something that's gift quality, very different than the secondhand market. It's definitely, it's like street smart versus book smart. You learn so much along the way. One horror story I want to share is I sold a Nintendo Wii locally, and they asked me to meet at the bank. So I said, great, I love to meet at the bank. That's the most secure location possible. We went to the bank. At the time, it was $100. We went there. I watched the person enter in their PIN number and withdraw money. I didn't look at the screen because you don't do that, right? So I waited while they went to the ATM. They turned around. They gave me $100. I gave them the Nintendo Wii, and it was my bank. So I walked in to deposit the money, and it was a fake $100 bill.
Oh
So I
man.
totally got scammed. And the lady was like, "Hey, look, you should, when you do this, you should carry real money or one of those pens if it's $100 or more, because this is very common, right? And you don't know who this person is. They are the buyer. You're not going to get your money back, and we have to confiscate this money. So you're out of $100, but you can usually tell because counterfeit money is not the same size. So that was the dead giveaway when she was like, look at this bill again. I could tell it wasn't right. But again, I watched the person withdraw money. That wasn't the money that I received though. So just be careful. Again, this is a hustler's market. So be careful out there. I actually kept that money as a reminder to not get hustled.
And, And that goes to failure. You failed hardcore,
Yeah.
but you learned a valuable a life lesson,
Hmm.
not just education, but wisdom. And so now now you're letting everyone know, I'm letting everyone know about that armed robbery. So, even learning from others' failures is key to being successful in life in general.
I want to be clear on that $100 bill too. She cut it into thirds and let me keep a third. So just so I could have some kind of reminder to not get hustled when you're out there, because you don't know. So that is crazy. Any other tips and thoughts?
Um, just keep learning. That's all I got to say is just keep educating yourself. What's nice about, I started in eBay in 1995 before they even had the eBay branding and everything. So I've been in this for a long time. And just know that, everything's going to be a constant learning experience. And what's nice about these days is with the internet, YouTube, mentorship programs, all this kind of stuff, it's easier for everyone to access information and to start learning than it was, 20 years ago when I had to go through classified ads and send like snail mail and before like PayPal and all this stuff. So I guess just always be learning, because especially in the resale business, there's like literally millions of things to learn about. So if you're constantly learning, you're going to get that experience, and eventually you're going to be where a lot of us are at, where we can go into any estate sale, any garage sale, and pull value out of stuff that people are just walking by. So always be learning.
Last thought, I would like you to maybe share one category that people wouldn't normally think about. And I'll start. I watched a video where a gentleman was selling old $100 bills for between $125 and $175. And he's like, every time I go to the bank, I ask if they have $100 bills, and sometimes they do. And so I tried that. I went to Chase Bank and asked for some bills, and then I went to Wells. I went to a bunch of different banks and asked for $100 bills, and went to 4 banks and only got one. So it actually is relatively rare. So I have it up for 135 bucks now, and I've already had an offer for 120. And I was like, interesting. That's like better than the stock market. So if you can go look for money, and you can check these people's feedback, and they buy and sell currency. So it's like an awesome category that you might be able to get into that technically doesn't cost money, because you could just use it if you need it. But that's something that I'm going to start selling because of the size. You could take your whole eBay inventory with you if it fits in your wallet. So just be careful on that. Also, one more thing on that. When you sell rare collectibles, actually do not carry them, because you don't want to damage it. You want it to have the same quality as when you took a picture of it.
Excellent. I think one of the niches that I've been getting into, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second, is postcards. Old postcards have been super hot right now. I wish I knew about old postcards 20 years ago. They're very common. As far as I'm talking about older postcards, I'm not talking about newer postcards. Some of them go for thousands of dollars. Some of them go for hundreds of dollars. They're readily available at flea markets and things like that. You got to do your research and everything. And one of the great things is they're small, they're easy to ship. And when I started my eBay business back in 1995, I was doing Beanie Babies and all that, but I also was doing sports cards, and those things were super easy to ship. So don't stress yourself out about trying to ship washing machines and things like that. Like Chris is talking about, dollars, currency, coins have always been traditionally well in the market. Those kind of go up and down because of the price of silver and gold, but definitely try to sell things that are small to start off with, and you won't be your square footage won't be taken up by all these washing machines you're trying to sell.
Mm-hmm. And also, last tip on the washing machines and sofas and furniture. We're going to do one more category if you don't mind, each. I have been, there's a Pottery Barn West Elm outlet in my area. So we've been looking at different furniture pieces, and I have now flipped 4 coffee tables, and I can only store 1 coffee table at a time. So I'm just thinking it's fun because I'm learning about a new category. It's a great local flip, and these companies hate furniture returns. They're so cheap. They're like 95% off. Like a $500 coffee table will be 40 bucks because they don't have space. They don't have space to put returns. And usually there's something wrong with it. So you can even get an even stronger discount. And people are looking for parts. So I had a coffee table where a guy paid $60 just for the legs. He's like, because OfferUp now has shipping. So I put something ridiculous, like $100 for shipping. And he's like, I'll pay you $60 for just the legs. Take them off and then throw away. I'll pay you basically full price. I just want the legs only. So you never know. And that's something that it can be fun too. It doesn't have to just be, just purely for money. If you enjoy stuff like, and now I'm looking at furniture. Another thing that sells really quickly is bar stools. Bar stools, dining room sets, all that stuff is really easy to sell. But again, I like the idea of just keeping one. End tables. And then also the last thing is Poshmark is about to launch home goods, and they have the 5 pounds ships for $6.49 regardless of what box it's in. And so now that's going to be awesome because figurines and a lot of items are heavy and a little bit beyond the flat rate items. So now you might want to look at different platforms and be able to do that because that shipping discount, $6.79 for a 5 pound unusually shaped item is going to cost $20 to ship on eBay. So huge difference. Use that $13 shipping advantage to grow your business.
You bring up a couple good points there. Also, like diversifying what platforms you sell on. You talk about Poshmark. These things are ever evolving. And, of course, I love eBay. I've been an eBay guy forever, but I've branched out to Mercari. I've done Poshmark. I haven't had really great success with Poshmark, but that's just my own thing. The Real, ThreadUp, and all these kind of things. So definitely diversify what you're doing. It'll help your business. You're reaching more eyeballs, which is the key. And then eventually you'll start to learn how to, what does better on what and things like that. But yeah, you're totally right about parts. I've been into parts for a long time. Game parts, electronics like coffee makers. You can sell like the little filter plastic things and a lot of that stuff. So parting out items is actually a very lucrative business. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
I just sold the Dymo printer spool inside for $40. And I was like, this is so awesome. I went to Goodwill and there was a smashed one. The smashed one was there for $5. So I just bought it. But the only salvageable part was the spool inside. So you never know. And then broken stuff is usually free. People don't want that. So it's hard to sell because the extra work involved. So why don't we bring it home, Chris, with one more collectible that you sell? Because I know you like to sell a lot of collectibles, and that's something that some people want to get into kind of as a retirement store. Most people don't like to stop working. So if you're, and my audience is usually 50 years old and older. So let's say you want to start getting into a collectible. What category would you start with?
Well, also to kind of piggyback off Postcards, old photographs actually do very well, especially if you can get originals. One of the things that's kind of emerging in the market right now is 80s and 70s Christmas photos of people with specific toys, opening up toys, because a lot of people have those kind of things, and sometimes those family photos get discarded. So I would definitely say vintage photographs. Now that's a niche that you're going to need to really learn about. It's not like you're just going to buy any old photo album photos and start to make money. Definitely research that. But for the older generation, I think a lot of that segment of the population has old photos or come across that kind of stuff in estate sales and things like that. So definitely old photos is something to look into.
Awesome. So why don't we tell everybody where they can find you and the best way to reach you if they have any more questions?
I'm Chris, the Thrift Shop Hustler here on YouTube. I also have an Instagram account. It's the Thrift Shop Hustler. And if you have any questions, you want to get a hold of me, I think Instagram is probably the best way other than YouTube.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for coming in. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and head over to Chris's channel in the description below. And everyone have a great day. Thank you.